Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 175. I'm your host, Richard Bailey Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
How you doing, people? I'm doing good. Good to be here. What's up, Rich?
Oh, yeah, what's up? Uh, we also have Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, Rich. Gary, always a pleasure talking with you guys. Got a lot of stuff to discuss today. A lot of big stuff now starting this week and for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are pretty much coming up on the busy holiday gaming season, so this is the best time of the year. Yeah, we do have quite a bit of things to discuss, as there was a few important things that happened this week. But before we do that, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. So, how about you go first, Mr. Lugo, and let us know what you've been playing?
Well, so far, again, we've had some reviews go up on the site. The most notably, the one that went up the most recent was Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice on Nintendo 3DS. I reviewed it. I ended up scoring it in the 70s. Thought that was fair. Interesting game. It kind of steps a little bit away from its element, being part of the Phoenix Wright series, focusing on the courtroom, different cases being defended, and, overall the story of the character is very kooky, very crazy, it goes from 0 to 60 as far as, like, its wackiness very quickly. But one of the things that I had a major issue with it was that because it tried to implement a very spirituality and a very big kind of, like, mystical element into the story, it involves, like, this idea where you're looking at what's called the seance ceremonies, where you're looking at the last few seconds of a defendant or a victim's life in order to figure out what happened to them and kind of, like, crack the case open for, finding someone that whether they're guilty or not of murder and such. But I felt that mystical element was way out of place for Phoenix Wright. It was kind of like way too much into the crazy extreme, and I felt like it wasn't fitting with the rest of the actual series. But it was still a decent game for anybody that likes Phoenix Wright, or anybody that loves the character, or is just curious about it. Those are very story-driven games. So we have the review of that on the website now. Besides that, I've been playing some other games for review that are coming up now. The embargoes are about to lift up. Most notably tomorrow, for the time that we're actually recording this podcast, tomorrow, my review of ReCore on Xbox One will be going live on the Koalition. I have a lot to say about it then, because, again, we can't really talk about it now, but know that I am playing it, know that I am reviewing it, and you'll see it on the site very, very soon. We also might be doing a video for it on the YouTube channel as well. I'm also playing Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse for Nintendo 3DS. That'll be up later in the week. And I got a couple other games I've been messing around with. I actually played through Journey again on PlayStation 4. I downloaded it through PlayStation Plus, and I was like, you know what? Let me sit through it, actually play it, get the trophies and everything else like that. Very emotionally driven experience. Very surreal diving back into that game. And again, that's the second time I've actually played Journey. The first time I wasn't really kind of like getting it. I was a little bit more ignorant to like what that game was about or what I could get out of it and stuff. But this time I came in a little bit more mature and kind of experienced it for what it was. And it was a really good one. So for me, must play for anybody that's out there. But that's what I've been playing, Rich.
Sounds good. Yes. Look forward to hearing more about ReCore, as I'm sure a lot of people are, because they want to know whether or not it's better than Mighty Number 9, so definitely we'll check that out tomorrow. How about you, Gary? What have you been playing?
Busy week for me, so mainly just Overwatch when I can fit it in. I did play Lightning Returns for a little while as well, because, it's a very chill kind of game that you can play when you need to relax a little bit, so I spent a little time on that. I really need to start Deus Ex, though, so I can start talking about that. It's been too long. So yeah, I'm gonna start that hopefully today, and yeah, that's it. That's it from me, really.
Sounds good. Well, as for me, I've been playing, of course, I went back to XCOM Enemy Unknown on the Xbox One, backwards compatibility. Still a great game. Still trying to maneuver that game. That game is very time consuming. If you put the difficulty up, you adjust the settings, it becomes a little bit more difficult. But getting ready for XCOM 2, also ReCore, which will be out on Tuesday. So I spent a lot of time with that. I did attempt to play the NBA 2K17 Prelude, which is pretty much like it's basically gives you an introduction to my player career. You get to play, you get to choose from 10 different college universities you can play at, and then you use that to transition into the actual game, which will be out. for anybody that pre-ordered it this upcoming Friday. So I definitely will be checking that out on Friday, and we'll have something to say about that next week. But outside of that, those are the only two games I played. Trying to upgrade my PlayStation 4 hard drive, so haven't really wanted to spend any more time on Deus Ex or any of these other games until I've actually done that transition, because then I have to go through the whole process of saving and all this other stuff. So, but that's pretty much all I've been playing. I definitely will have a lot more to say next week, because I will be playing a lot of stuff this upcoming week. So that pretty much covers what we've been playing. We're going to go ahead and jump right into the topics. One of the hot topics, this took place on Friday. Bethesda, they released a statement. They made claims that they cannot issue mod support on PlayStation 4 because Sony will not approve user mods the way that they need it to work. Now, we know that the history between PlayStation and Bethesda, this has gone into last generation where they had issues with certain games. They didn't work quite as well. So, Gary, feel free to let me know more about the situation. I know that you're a Bethesda fan, so you can tell me what you think about this and more about the situation in case I missed anything.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two sides to this. So Bethesda are saying they can't give mod support on PlayStation because Sony won't provide them with what they need for the mods to be available. But on the flip side, I actually spoke about this with Wesley as well, so shouts to him. But on the flip side of things, you could look at it as Sony wanting quality control over what gets added to these mods and stuff like that, because there was, from what Wesley was telling me, and he showed me a NeoGAF thread where people were backing this up as well, there was a lot of issues on the Xbox One version of Fallout 4 with the mods that they added and stuff. Apparently there was a lot of performance issues and stuff with those mods. So Sony specifically said that they didn't want that issue if they bring mod support to PSN for Fallout 4 and Skyrim. And I guess Bethesda doesn't want to hire people to quality control mods because, I mean, they barely quality control their own games anyway. But yeah, so I guess there's two sides to look at it here. I'm not sure who really is to blame. It's kind of subjective of, whether you think it's Sony holding back mod support or whether you think Bethesda should just do some type of quality control to make sure that these mods actually perform well. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that? Who do you think's in the wrong based on that?
You go ahead first, JJ.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of with Gary on this. One of the first things that I thought, and I think the knee-jerk reaction from everybody is to be like, oh, Sony doesn't want to have mods on PlayStation Network on PS4 because they want to do this and they want to do that. And obviously from strictly a player's perspective, I can understand a little bit of the frustration because it seems like it was such an easy fit for Xbox One for both Fallout and Skyrim HD on that platform. But I could totally understand, there's probably logistical reasons that we don't know or that we just don't get right now that are behind the scenes that we probably won't really get. We're only kind of getting he said, she said from both, from Bethesda themselves right now. And I don't think Sony's really kind of made a statement on it currently yet. But I could totally understand the idea of quality control for mods because obviously you want to have good mods that are out there that are available for people because you want the best types of stuff out there. You don't want just a whole heap of garbage populating what's on the PlayStation Network because obviously I don't think there really is a lot of quality control with mods or pretty much any at all whatsoever on PC like that, which is understandable. It's very community driven. It's very community oriented. That's kind of like the purpose of mods to some extent where, again, people that are fans of the game that have a real passion for it are creating these types of things. So I can understand Bethesda's point of view not really wanting to have such a hand in it and to really kind of police anything or really kind of have any sort of say and let it stay into the hands of the actual people that are playing the game. But I could also understand Sony's perspective. Again, this is their network, this is their platform and stuff. They want to make sure that there's the best quality stuff that's out there, and they just don't want stuff that's going to kind of bring down the quality of the brand or bring down the quality of the experience while playing those games on their platform. So again, it's a double-edged sword, and I think there's good arguments on both sides.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely good arguments on both sides as well. Obviously, you want to try to I was a little confused when you mentioned quality control. I don't know if that means that they also don't want people putting inappropriate mods.
Copywriting content, dude, that's
Yeah,
another big thing you got to think about because keep in mind, with Sony's relationship with Bethesda has been a little bit rocky ever since last generation, especially with the way Skyrim ran on PlayStation 3. Like it was just like not good. It was kind of terrible. But I could totally understand the idea of maybe like preventing stuff that's like copyrighted content or stuff that's like would be deemed lewd because you know how crazy mods can get. You know, in any sort of game, not just Fallout, not just Skyrim and stuff, mods in any sort of game that, you know, when people have the ability to create stuff like that, they're going to go to one extreme or the other. So maybe Sony's a little bit worried about that. Maybe they just don't want like nudity mods showing up on the PSN, which I could totally expect to go down on Xbox Live, you know, on the Xbox One. So, but I don't know, maybe Microsoft has an idea or a game plan for something like that, but who knows, maybe that might be one of the talking points.
let me make a quick point because I see that Gary has something that he wants to say. I was just going to say, yeah, I know that there was quite a bit of inappropriate stuff when PlayStation 4 first launched. You had people going on Ustream, maybe doing some, parental discretion advised type of stuff on the video. So I guess, yeah, that's probably what they're trying to prevent with the, in regards to the mods, certain stuff that may be in there. But I do have something else to say on that. But Gary, go ahead, because I know you have something to say.
Yeah, I think this is really the downside of, because consoles, they're closed platforms, like, because they're owned by Microsoft and Sony, and they obviously have their own network that they need to govern and set rules for. But the thing is, on PC, it's a very open platform where people can do what they want, kind of thing, and you have people making all types of different mods for these games on PC. Like, it's just the things they do is just incredible. There's complete conversions, and there's nude skin mods and just all sorts of crazy and wacky stuff. And the thing is, consoles are at a point where they want to be more open and they want to expand into what the PC is doing. But if they are going to do that, then they need to open up their platform a little bit, just to let if they want mod support to be a thing on consoles, then they're going to have to adjust their rules and regulations to accommodate that, because mods are a very open thing. It's a very open and experimental thing. And also, I mean, you got to think about the console gamers, because they're not used to having mods in their games at all. So like, that leaves the door open for them to be taken advantage of, or to download broken mods, and they have to deal with all these things, because you deal with these things on PC too. But PC gamers are more aware of this. They know that there's going to be mods that are probably broken and don't work, and you're going to have to figure out how to fix them or make them work. You're going to have to download other tools to get them to work or whatever. Like, there's all these different variables when it comes to mods on PC. And if it does come to consoles, it's going to you have to kind of train the audience to deal with all that sort of thing. Because if you just open the door to let people make whatever mod they want, then there's going to be all kinds of crazy things happening that could potentially crash the game. So it's just it's one of those unfortunate things. I guess it's Sony's lack of wanting to open their platform that's preventing this whole thing from going down, really. And either Bethesda or Sony is going to have to, it's going to be a give or take situation. Like, either Sony's going to budge and adjust their rules, or Bethesda's going to try and issue some kind of quality control so that only certain mods will be allowed. It's either or, I guess.
I don't think PlayStation's going to budge at all. They don't have to. That's the thing, and that's clearly what we're seeing happening at this point. Where I'm looking, after talking like this now, to like discussing and stuff, looking at Bethesda's statement a little bit, it seems like they just kind of wanted to get the public's attention back on Sony. It seems almost a little vindictive. Kind of, now that I think about it, now that I look over their statement and what they said and stuff, it just comes off that way. Because again, I can't blame Sony for thinking about stuff like that and maybe wanting, again, if that is the case, again, I'm going with the assumption that being the case. If that is how it is, I mean, I kind of can't blame them for that. Because you brought up a good point, Gary. Console gamers that aren't really immersed in that PC environment, that don't play like a lot of first-person shooters or games that have a lot of mods available to them on PC, they're not going to have any understanding of that. So immediately when they go to download a mod and it's completely messed up, the first person they're going to blame is Sony. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to want to have that type of responsibility or have that type of outlook on them.
Well, so Sony already has. Depending on how you perceive the news from earlier this week, if Sony probably already got some people maybe a little upset or indifferent to what was announced. We'll get into that later. But regarding this particular issue, I just think it's unfortunate for the gamers that actually have Fallout 4 on PlayStation 4 and was planning to get Elder Scrolls. And I think that the Elder Scrolls Remastered, for those that really desperately want mod support on PlayStation 4, well, they probably won't get that game on PlayStation 4 now because they know that this is an issue with the mod support. So I think it's unfortunate. It definitely sets a precedent where, again, you have the Xbox fanboys. They will be coming after Sony fanboys, laughing in their face because now, well, we get mod support, you guys don't. So it continues these stupid discussions about my console is better than yours for no apparent reason. So, I would like to hope that...
Well, it's funny you say that because shouts to Damien. He just got in the chat right now. And he's talking about he's talking about the mod support stuff. So shouts to him. shouts to Charles too, because it looks like they're about to go at it. But yeah, I'm not calling Damien a fanboy though. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think you're definitely gonna have a lot of Xbox people, coming at Sony saying, okay, yeah, we got mod support on these games and you guys haven't. And, this is, well, we're going to get more into this later, but this is like the prime time to attack Sony because of everything that's happened this week. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we definitely are going to get into that because I've seen a lot of comments in the last couple of days, people coming after Phil. And, yeah, we're going to talk about that later. But this particular issue, again, I just think it's unfortunate. I would like to hope that eventually they do have a workaround for this, but I know Sony, they are not going to do anything. This is on Bethesda to try and figure out something, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. You guys have any other... Well, let me ask a quick question before we move on. Now, did any of you guys play Fallout on PlayStation 4? Did it have any issues with performance, or was the game, pretty good as is in its current form?
I played it on PC. I didn't play it on PS4.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I wrote the guide for it on IGN, and I played that game super extensively. And there are bugs. I think that again, Bethesda games almost always have bugs because of the sheer size and scope of them, and there's a lot of things that the game needs to keep track of. So those are always going to be there. And it depends. Everybody's experience with them will have various degrees of effects or whatnot. But from my experience and such, yes, I can say that there are bugs and there are different things in there.
Well, I know you already alluded to earlier that they've always had some type of performance issues on the PlayStation versions. So I was just curious if the game was fine, or if that still had some significant issues. I know I played the Xbox One version. The bugs are common, I think, across all three versions. So
it still runs good. Don't get me wrong. It still runs great and it still looks great and stuff. But obviously, I think all the versions of the game still have some sort of bugs or glitches or whatever.
Okay. All right. Just was curious about that. Yeah, I'm going to reiterate that I would like to hope that there's a workaround for this. I don't really think it's fair how one platform will get mod support, the other one doesn't. But they're going to have to figure that out. Just like the situation with the crossplay where Microsoft said that they would allow crossplay with Xbox and they will do it with PlayStation, but only if PlayStation, it's on them to agree to that. So I will hope all this stuff eventually does get resolved to some extent. You want to give players a lot more to look forward to. And, of course, if the goal is for the consoles to become more like PCs, well, they have to start opening up stuff. So we'll see. Any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next one?
No, I'm good. I'm interested to see what others have to say, really.
All right, so, yeah, definitely leave your comments and let us know what you think on the matter. So the next topic. This is a topic that I know a lot of people have spoken about. I'd like to give a shout-out to Mr. Tony Polanco because he predicted this. Of course, the hardware sales for NPD have come out, and Microsoft was the top selling. Xbox One S was the top selling console for August. I would like to go on record and say that I figured it was going to be PlayStation 4 because you had Madden. I know last year Madden, of course, was the top selling game, and even though they haven't announced the software sales, I fully expect that to be the case next week when they do announce it. But I figured PlayStation 4, yeah, without a doubt. But of course, like Tony said, he was 100% correct. The release of the Xbox One S, I guess everybody was on board with that. I even considered getting it, but then I said no, I'm good. So, you guys have any thoughts on this particular news?
No, to be honest with you, not really. No, I don't really have much to say on it.
All right, how about you, Gary?
The Xbox.
Yeah, Xbox One S.
I mean, that's two months in a row. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with September, to be honest, with everything that's happening. I mean, I'm not going to say this will be a changing of the cards because, I mean, there's still a lot coming out for Sony. They got the VR, they got the Pro, the Slim. Maybe the Slim will really take off because I'm sure not everybody has a 4K TV, but maybe like mad people will just go out and get a Slim. You never know. So I'm not gonna, try and predict anything, but it is great for Microsoft, and I think they're in a great position right now. So, kudos to Microsoft, and I hope they continue to deliver with, their level of quality and everything. So
it'll be interesting over the next few months as we get more into the fourth quarter of this year. Like and after October, after PSVR comes out, after PS4 Slim and PS4 Pro come out, then we'll see like how that environment or how just the landscape's going to be like as we get into like Christmas and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me go ahead and say this. It is going to be interesting for September. I mean, we know that the PS4 Slim comes out next week. I'm going to be very interested to see how that does. But I think with October, you got Gears of War 4 coming out. I don't see why Microsoft shouldn't win October based off of that game by itself. But, I mean, you never know how this stuff pans out until you actually see it. It's good for Microsoft to have, they get a couple of months underneath their belt. We do know that Sony obviously will, again, take that spot again. I mean, we'll have to see what it does, what it's going to be that's going to push it to that limit. I mean, that we already know that Gran Turismo will not be coming out this year. They got delayed till next year. The games I know for as far as the exclusives, you got Last Guardian, you got Neo, Gravity Rush 2. It's a couple other games here and there.
All the other big ones got pushed out. Like we're not going to get Horizon until February. So pretty much you got like maybe one or two like super big exclusives from like October on, and then the rest are like big third-party games that people are going to choose their consoles.
Oh yeah, the third-party support definitely. We know Call of Duty. That's I can tell you right now, and I probably should have mentioned that earlier in the show. I did go to the Call of Duty XP event. That's why I wasn't here last week. I can tell you right now, that game is a very big deal on PlayStation because they have the deal. But when I went to that event, it's like every station I went to at that event, when we was able to get hands-on time with the game, everything was a PlayStation controller. There was no PC, no Xbox. It's all PlayStation, and it's a PlayStation-focused event. So that's pretty much what that's all about. So some of the third-party games obviously will sell better on PlayStation 4. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next couple months. As I said, I still believe Gears of War 4 that's Microsoft's major game for the holiday. They got Dead Rising 4 coming out in December, but that's, they don't really have anything coming out in November because everything third party also coming out in November, but their major game this year is Gears of War 4. ReCore is coming out next week and Forza's coming out later this month. Both big games, but I don't think either one of them games is bigger than Gears of War. So I'll be interested to see if Microsoft does win October.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, that's it. We'll move on to some of these other topics. You got anything else that you want to add, Gary, or are you good?
Oh, no, I'm good on that.
All right, so we have a couple of things we're going to get into with the PlayStation meeting, and there's a few other topics here or there. So I just want to say this. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody that was on our PlayStation meeting React. Of course, JJ, Gary, Charles, Dana, and Chris. Yeah, I think you guys did an excellent job. You had some great reactions to it. I was unable to be on the show because I was at work when the show happened. So I did want to say a few things about the show itself. I, like many other people would think, I thought the show was pretty boring as well because, you know, the way that it was presented, you know, it's like, it definitely was a meeting. It's like this was like a boardroom meeting where you have Mark Cerny is sitting up there talking about, yes, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it, so on and so forth. You know, it wasn't really something where you was going to be able to at any point see what the 4K stuff looked like. Obviously, if you had a TV or a monitor that was 4K compatible, then you would see that. But I did want to say that there was a couple of issues I had with the show in particular. Now, I've already said this in the comment section for the React for those that didn't see it or they just didn't get a chance to see it yet. I think one of the issues with this particular announcement, they announced that the PlayStation 4 Pro is coming out November 10th. Okay, you also announced that the Slim is coming out the 15th of this month. So you have that coming out September, and then PlayStation VR coming out in October. I've said in the past that when Microsoft announced the Scorpio at the Xbox conference, that was confusing for the sheer fact that you announced the Xbox One S at the beginning of the show, then you announced the new console at the end of the show. And, you know, I had said that was confusing. Now I have to say, well, I think that Sony did a far worse job with how they delivered their message because you have a lot of options, but there's no way that someone could think that they're going to dominate with all three of these products, and they're just going to be big-time sellers across the board for the next 3 months. You have put consumers in a very difficult position. And one example I used was that the simple fact that you have, you know, a lot of parents or older people, they don't stay up on gaming news, depending if they're not into that type of stuff. They know that their kids are. So when they go to the store this holiday season and they see, oh, there's a PlayStation 4 Slim and there's a PlayStation 4 Pro, I don't know what the difference is. They can ask somebody at Best Buy, and maybe that person will be of some assistance, and maybe they will be maybe just as dumb as the person asking the question about the system. But my thing is that you put people in a very, you know, confusing situation because they'll go be like, well, this system is cheaper. I'm pretty sure the other one is more powerful, but you know what? This is for my kid. He can deal with the cheaper version for now. I think that's confusing because everything is just so lined up together. The PlayStation 4 Slim, $300. You got the PlayStation VR, $400, and then you have the PlayStation 4 Pro, $400. Very expensive and a lot of options and a lot of confusion. Wait,
are they still selling the original PS4?
No, they're phasing it out. The Slim is going to replace the old model PS4.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I was just making sure.
Yeah. And you know, I know that they announced that there's going to be a couple of bundles. They have an Uncharted 4 bundle now with the Slim that will be available this Friday. You know, the bundles, Microsoft has done that with the bundles also. They did a lot of that last year. I expect them to do that again this year.
They need that for the Pro, to be honest with you. If they were going to have it the way that it turned out, and again, I think we're all kind of in agreement that it was kind of lackluster as far as, like, you know, the intensity, the energy in there in that room and such. I think that I wish, I don't know if it was possible or not, but probably announce a bundle with the Pro for, like, something like The Last Guardian or something like that. You know, something to get people excited. That would have been awesome. They're like, oh, play The Last Guardian on the PlayStation 4 Pro, or you get it with the actual console. But again, that's just my line of thinking.
Well, they may announce a game. I mean, The Last Guardian is a game some people have been waiting for. I don't know if it's a game that everybody would want to get, but they could definitely do that this fall. They're going to probably have a couple of announcements with the consoles in the bundles. But another major issue from this show, I think that a lot of people just skipped over this issue completely. I know that Tony has mentioned this because I saw some of his reactions on Twitter. Where the hell was the discussion about PlayStation VR?
Yeah, there was none. We talked about that on the Reacts. Like, there was almost no mention of it, which I found surprising.
Yeah. You know, my thing is that I know they wanted to talk about the Pro. This is a hardware-centric show. That's fine. But the Pro is coming out after PlayStation VR. You would think that you would say something about that. Now, let me just to clarify. I know they cannot properly demonstrate VR on stage. I'm not talking about they had to give a demonstration, but there's certain information that came out about PlayStation VR in the last couple of days that, you know, you wouldn't know unless you was visiting a gaming website. And to my knowledge, when they had this broadcast, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who don't visit the blog regularly was also watching this. So that was the time for them to sell them, let them know what PlayStation VR is and why they need to invest in it. Just like the example of the fact that there are games that are going to come with PlayStation VR when you purchase it. I saw that in the news post. I didn't once hear them mention that on the broadcast. And I think that type of stuff, that will let you know that they care about VR and that, you know, it is going to offer something if you invest in it. So that was a missed opportunity. And as someone who I do consider myself an early adopter and someone who picked up a Vita as soon as it launched, if I at any point was thinking about getting PlayStation VR, I would have completely decided not to after watching that conference because there was no discussion on it. All it was talking about 4K HDR, this technology which we don't know about enough about yet to see how beneficial it's going to be for the games, and yet no mention of PlayStation VR. But we did see photos of the VR setup and everything else. So I thought that was a misstep to not mention that at all.
Yeah, I thought we would actually see a bundle of PlayStation VR and the Pro, or you know, something along those lines.
Me too.
But thinking about it, I think they wanted to do a bundle, but they probably just didn't want to announce it because they know that price would be so high. Like they didn't want to say, oh yeah, this is going to be how much is it going to be? Like $600 or whatever for this bundle. Like I think that's what it was. They didn't want to actually say the price of the bundle.
Well, I do have to give them credit for the pricing in which everything is. You know, as far as the PlayStation Pro, PlayStation 4 Pro, yeah, that $399 is an excellent price. And then also with the Slim, $299, I think that's fine also. So I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the pricing, but I think that, you know, you really needed to talk about PlayStation VR a little bit more. They just decided not to really get into all that. So I know they're not going to talk about that at TGS next week because they're going to be talking about the games that are coming out on PlayStation 4. But that's a missed opportunity, I would say. But it is what it is. One other thing I did want to mention before we get into the next topic. I saw a lot of people talking about, after this conference, making the comparison about, oh, so this system is now, you know, the PlayStation 4 Plus is going to be, you know, now they're going to just blow Microsoft out the water with the Scorpio, and then the other people saying that the Scorpio is going to be more powerful. The thing about it is this: nobody knows any information about the Scorpio yet. All they know is that the 6 teraflops, or whatever the hell Microsoft said, that's all they know. They don't know anything else about this console. We know they all said they're going to try and go after 4K. No one knows about any of this other stuff because Microsoft hasn't revealed anything, so I don't understand why that instantly became the discussion. People really need to sit back and look at the conference itself. Look about how Sony presented it, which, as I said, it was a boring presentation in my opinion. There wasn't really much excitement. You know, even when they announced the console, I didn't hear like a thunderous round of applause. Just like, yeah, okay, this is good. I mean, it wasn't like a major reaction to any of this other stuff because they already had that reaction when they announced the PlayStation 4 originally years ago. But I think people really need to think about the conference and about how Sony has what they presented and the products they have. Don't worry about the Scorpio. You can't make that comparison. A lot of people were reaching. I saw articles, people were reaching, talking about comparing this to the Scorpio. We don't know anything about the Scorpio yet. Microsoft hasn't said anything. But we're going to get into that right now because there was a few things that Microsoft did say when they gave their reaction to the Scorpio. So there was an article posted in which there was an interview that was conducted with Microsoft. They gave some thoughts on the Scorpio. They made the comment that we still believe that we have the best value this holiday season in terms of the games and the options. And then they also alluded to the fact that, we'll also that it's going to be a major difference between this and the Scorpio. which I think, I mean, all you can really take from that is that they're very confident in what the Scorpio will deliver. I think it's going to be an uphill battle because when you announce that every game is compatible, whether it's on PC, Xbox One, or Xbox One S, you really have to. They're going to have the same type of trouble trying to sell people on why they need to get a Scorpio. But do you guys have any thoughts on those particular comments, or the fact that Microsoft is still confident the Scorpio is going to be a better, more powerful option?
There's no doubt at this point in time that the Scorpio is going to be like a more powerful system. It definitely is going to be that. It's going to be way more powerful than the PS4 Pro. But at the same time, we also have to consider developers, publishers and studios, because now their work is going to multiply because they have to, adjust these games and, optimize them for all these different platforms now and make sure they run smooth on everything. So, whether we actually see a leap because of this extra power or not is what the case is going to be. Because, I mean, I don't know if people are going to be willing to spend that much money if the system actually doesn't deliver on bringing us more powerful experiences, and studios and developers, they work on a budget, they're on a strict budget, and they're not going to go out of their way to optimize it and fully utilize all that power in the Scorpio if they still have to worry about it running smoothly across the board on all the other systems. So that will be, the biggest test for them right there, like whether enough developers and studios actually want to optimize fully for the Scorpio to get the full use out of it.
Agreed. I mean, I think it's also a very similar issue that you're finding in the PlayStation camp. I think the idea that developers are going to have to make their games, they're going to have to put it through certification multiple times, for different platforms. Again, I say certification, in reference to like the PlayStation platform, but I could totally see it being the same thing over going on Xbox One and the Xbox Live platform and all that stuff. I think also, people are going to love the idea of having a much more powerful machine. I think that we all kind of have an understanding that the Xbox Project Scorpio is going to be a beast. Like, that's the general consensus amongst a lot of people. And even, not just industry folk, people that look and criticize the industry, but developers themselves have been speaking out saying, like, the Project Scorpio is a legit beast. So it seems like they are excited about it. But I'm with Gary where there's a lot of different things to think about here. And I think that when the console eventually comes out in 2017, because they said holiday 2017 is when they're kind of aiming for the Project Scorpio to come out, or at least probably be unveiled in like a much more official capacity, like given like an actual name next year at E3 and stuff. So we'll probably have a better idea about it right now. There's comparison charts. I know I just put one in the chat that IGN did for Scorpio and PS4 Pro, like with what we know now. But again, a lot of that stuff that Gary mentioned, I think we'll have better clarity on it come next year.
I think one thing the Scorpio might be able to promise is that most games, if not all of them, will run at 1080p 60 frames per second. Like, I think it will be possible for damn near every game to run at that on that system.
Well, wait a second though. But isn't that up to the developers when they develop the game for it?
Yeah. It's still up to the developers, of course. They're still at the developers' mercy. But with the level of power that they want to pack in this thing, it's most likely going to be possible for every game to run at 1080 60. And you actually told me yourself, Rich, like and I saw the news story as well, that Mass Effect Andromeda is still going to run at 30 frames per second on the PS4 Pro. So I mean, I guess that's one sell they've got for the Scorpio. If they come out and say that, then that might be a big deal for them.
Well, I do want to make a quick comment on that. I know that EA they made that statement about the game. It will be 1080p and 30 frames per second on PlayStation 4 Pro and PlayStation 4. I don't know if that's going to change, but after hearing that, I know there was a lot of people that was angry about it. It was like it's a split camp. Some that didn't care about it, and then there was some that were pretty pissed about that. They want the game to be because after they said, but see, Sony never said in the conference. they said smoother frame rates. They never really elaborated and said that every game is going to run at 60 frames per second, so or higher for that matter. So it's all about the wording. But I know when people heard that Mass Effect news, some was pissed. Others like, well, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. It's supposed to be about the game itself and whether or not the game performs and looks well. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, like, frame rate only, like, I'm gonna sound like a PC head when I say this, but like, frame rates only matter on PC, to be honest, because like on consoles, it just matters that it's stable, like that, you know, the frame rate is smooth. So, I mean, a game running at 30 is, to me, in my opinion, is fine as long as it doesn't dip, as long as like the frame rate doesn't dip and, you know, it's not choppy and stuff. If it's running smooth, then that's fine. But it's just the consumers themselves and the fanboys that put so much stock on the frame rate. And if Microsoft are able to guarantee that games on the Scorpio are able to run at 60 no matter what, then that will be a big deal for them, just because consumers are, you know, fickle and they look at the frame rate like it's, you know, a big deal, when really it just matters that your frame rate is stable. That's what really matters, you know, if your frame rate is stable.
And let's also keep in one other point, because I saw something from Colin Moriarty not so long ago when they were talking about specifically PS4 Pro, but he applied it also to Scorpio, and just like the changing landscape in general, gameplay should always be king. Like, there's only so much that we could go for in terms of power, as far as visual fidelity, as far as frame rate, and all this other stuff. I think that at one point, somebody at some point, whether it's in the Xbox camp or the PlayStation camp or wherever, is going to kind of realize that, or probably put a little bit much more emphasis on that, and maybe that's going to change things up a little bit. You know, because as much as, like, you know, our games get better looking and our games get much more smoother in the way that they run, they get bigger as far as like the type of like pictures and the visual stuff that we see, you know, going from either 1080p all the way up to 4K and stuff. I think what it comes down to is how fun they are to play, how much we come back to actually checking them out. Again, that gets into a whole nother argument that could last for much longer than this podcast here, but I think that's still a good talking point to keep in mind.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I mean, we'll have to see how that whole situation is going to pan out. As I said, I know I did see the comparison chart of what we know so far about Scorpio. I know that I do believe some of that information could change because, again, Microsoft hasn't said anything. And, you know, Microsoft is notorious for changing stuff up, you know, when they need to change it. So I'm not saying that, you know, I'm going to believe it's going to just stay at the 6 teraflops. I mean, we'll see what happens next year, whether or not that's the case. But I just think, yeah, until Microsoft actually talks about the Scorpio, you can't really say too much about. I will say that I am intrigued by the fact that Microsoft is so confident in this device, because to me, they're going to have a very hard time trying to sell people on this. It's not really just about the power. You got to think about the fact that, as they have already said, most of all the games that they're making now are going to be running on PC, Xbox One, One S, and this system. So I don't know how you're going to sell somebody on something why they need to get a Scorpio if they can get that game on either PC or Xbox One S. I mean, that is, to me, is the uphill battle. Of course, they can go back and say, well, not every game will be running on you know, PC and stuff like that. But I think you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that discussion. I know that they saw how Sony presented themselves, and now they definitely are going to try to bring something to the table to, you know, try to make a better presentation. But I'm interested to see what it is that why they're so confident, because I know you can't, as a business person, come out and just be like, oh, well, system is going to be just okay, just all right. You have to be confident to some extent to make the consumer confident, but I want to see what they're so confident about. So next year can't come soon enough. But with that said, we'll see where that goes. Now, this other discussion here, I know some people probably looked at the title, because a lot of people who listen to this podcast look at the title. They think this is a very controversial title. These guys are specifically just trying to pick things to talk about to generate controversy. No, this was a discussion that actually took place. It was an interview, no less, that took place just yesterday. And you know, it was an interview that you can find over on the Guardian. It's also a link to it on PC Gamer as well. But the fact of the matter is that they had an interview with Andrew House, and he alluded to the fact that, you know, this is what his exact quote was. Okay, we wanted to keep those people with our ecosystem by giving them the very best and the very highest performance quality. So the net result of those thoughts was PlayStation 4 Pro, and by and large, a graphical approach to game improvement. Basically, Andrew House was saying that the reason why they announced the PlayStation 4 Pro is because they thought that this mid-generation cycle upgrade this is a new direction for the industry, but they also were looking at what PC is doing, and they're trying to stay competitive with PC. You know, there's a lot more that was said in the interview. I will gladly post some of this information on the site to show you guys, but pretty much they alluded to the fact that they do look at PC as a competitor. Not really so much, you know, they're not really addressing Microsoft or saying Microsoft is in any way a competitor of theirs, but they're looking at PC because they see the success of PC. It's always about performance. It's about frame rate, everything, resolution. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that and asking the question whether or not you think the system is going to be competitive with PC, because we already know some pros to having it. But how about you give me your thoughts first, Mr. Swaby, because you are the PC head among us three, so you can let us know what you think about this topic.
Yeah, I call BS on that statement for a few reasons.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Gary.
Yeah, so first of all, if they saw PC as their main competitor, they wouldn't release PlayStation Now on PC. So that's first of all. Second of all, like, this is just their way of trying not to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is Microsoft and the Xbox. You know, they're basically trying to excuse the Xbox from the discussion at this point. It's like when you know, when Drake and Joe Budden were beefing. Joe Budden was going in on Drake, releasing diss tracks, and Drake just like ignored him. He didn't do anything. Like, this is that same concept. Sony's just trying not to acknowledge the elephant in the room. You know, like the fact that Xbox has, you know, they just released a Slim, their sales have picked up and stuff. Like, this is just Sony saying, look, we're releasing this. This is the PS4 Pro. This is for the people who support our ecosystem. This is the best of the best for those people who support the PlayStation brand. And that's, you know, that's all we're focused on right now. And the only competition we think that can match this is the PC. That's what they're trying to say, but it's complete BS because, first of all, there's no console in existence that can compete with the PC because parts are being released at regular intervals throughout the year, so people always have the option to upgrade on PC and make their system better if they want to, and you know that will increase the performance on all the games that drop on PC, and no console can compete with that because they don't release regularly enough. Even if, you know, they do start to release more systems more frequently, they're still going to be behind, and that's just the reality of it. So yeah, I call BS on that whole statement, and there's no way that PS4 Pro is a competitor for PC at all. So
Yeah, I agree with Gary, and you know, in various different ways, and you know, different types of sentiments to that. I think that I don't think it's much more of an excuse or kind of like not trying to acknowledge Microsoft, you know, the big elephant in the room. I think it's more of an excuse for them in the sense, or the way that they're talking is because they kind of got outflanked by Microsoft with Project Scorpio. I mean, again, I was watching and listening to a lot of stuff from Colin Moriarty where he was talking about this stuff because he was really heated about it. Like, he does not like the PlayStation 4 Pro whatsoever. He thinks it's kind of useless, that they were better off just having the Slim and having that as a replacement for the older model PS4, like that, which would have made more sense. This was a thing, in the way he described it, as a way to kind of like emulate a little bit of the mobile market, the mobile device market, where there's smaller iterations on a more frequent basis throughout every like year or so. And it's not something that really gaming needs right now. It's not something where that us as gamers, as console owners or console consumers, are really going to kind of dive into so easy right now. Like, it feels like PlayStation is trying to be ahead of the curve with that, and it's an answer to a problem we just don't have, that we don't need right now at this current moment. With the way that Andrew House was talking, again, saying that he's competitor with PC, that they were never really a competitor with Microsoft. That wasn't the case like over a year ago or some time ago when, you know, we had one of the best E3 shows from them where they said like, oh, here's how you share used games. Like, you know, if that was never the case, we wouldn't have had moments like that. And it wouldn't be the case right now, or it would have never been the case over the last E3 or so. Last E3 or 2 E3s that we've had. So I think it's always going to be that their competitor is always going to be Microsoft. It's always going to be the Xbox brand. Just as the same way their competitor over at the Microsoft camp and the Xbox camp is always going to be PlayStation. They're always going to be, you know, on polarizing ends and at odds with each other, with Nintendo somewhere in the middle there being its own little thing. I feel like that's always going to be the case. So the way that he's just talking, I feel like it's a little bit much more PR talk. I feel like it's a little bit much more business and kind of like, you know, publicity type of talk, where it's like, again, making excuses for like a little bit of the poor reception to PlayStation 4 Pro, but also in the sense where they kind of didn't foresee what Microsoft was kind of doing, or at least they weren't prepared for at least what they've been doing, you know, with the Xbox One S, but also the Xbox Scorpio, like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also like to give a shout out to Mr. Charles Singletary because I agree with what he said on the React, and in particularly when he said that wish that Sony would have just stuck to, they would just shouldn't even have bothered with the PlayStation 4 Pro. I would have been fine if they just announced the Slim, and if Microsoft just kept the Xbox One S. I don't see why you need to have the Scorpio or the PlayStation 4 Pro. I know that as someone who is into technology, I definitely would get the urge to want to pick up a new product or whatever when I hear it's announced. But when this PlayStation 4 Pro was announced, at one point I did consider to think, yeah, I probably should pick that up. But then I just thought, well, about the fact that I look at the price, $399. It's an upgraded system, yeah. 1 terabyte drive, man. You know, I play a lot of games, so that 1 terabyte is no longer enough. So all I did was just upgrade my current PlayStation 4 to a 2 terabyte drive, and that's pretty much it. As for the Scorpio, it may be the same situation. I already have a hard drive with the Xbox One, so I am somebody who, just like with Sony, they're going to have to try to sell me on what is the benefit to getting a Scorpio. I mean, there's no news about the system yet, so we'll see how that pans out. But
Rich, keep this in mind, though. Again, if we're looking at the comparison with PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox Scorpio, like that, as far as like their new iteration or their jump up from the previous versions of that platform and stuff, at least from what we've been hearing and like how it's been talked about, not only from Microsoft but also from developers and people that criticize and look at the industry and stuff, that the jump that they're having, and at least, you know, the reasoning for why this console exists seems to be on a much more bigger, larger level of like what they're doing with that platform, more so than the PlayStation 4 Pro. Because really, why does the PlayStation 4 Pro exist? It's really to kind of cater to not only 4K gaming and stuff, but also with moderate improvements to that platform that's already been done, which are, you could argue, and I think there's an argument to be made, that you get some of that already with the PlayStation 4 Slim, minus a few things here and there and stuff. But at least with the argument with the Xbox Scorpio is that this is going to be a ridiculous beast of a powerful console. Like its guts and all this other stuff is going to be completely change somewhat of the experience and offer different types of experiences you're not going to get on those previous platforms. But again, PS4 Pro, PS4 Slim, and just PlayStation Vanilla, like that, they're all going to have somewhat similar experiences with minor incremental jumps between them, like that. I think that's where really the big issue and the big kind of like, you know, debate is amongst everybody, or at least, you know, the discussion going on right now. So at least, to me, it feels like there's more of a justification for the Xbox Scorpio to exist than the PlayStation 4 right now. And Sony didn't really give that good of an explanation of why PS4 Pro exists, especially at their event recently right now. That's how at least I've seen everybody talk about it and the reception from it.
That is a very good point. I mean, we'll have to see. With this whole 4K thing, to me, one thing that I think that with the messaging, like I think the point you made about Scorpio, yes, definitely will be a significant upgrade from the Xbox One, and as has been alluded to, this may pretty much start then, you know, the next generation to some extent. I mean, we have to see. But one thing that I did want to say in regards to the 4K and HDR support stuff, I don't really know if that's something that either Microsoft or Sony are fully invested into. You know, I think about the fact that they announced these systems, Yes, these are options for people who have a 4K TV. What they don't announce, and neither Sony or Microsoft, for anybody that ever thought about upgrading to a 4K TV, where is the description on these are the recommended TVs? Because it has to be a very specific type of 4K and specific type of HDR. It has to be a certain TV. I know a lot of people who have a 4K TV. They don't have HDR support.
I could give some details on that because my brother recently he's moving to a new place. He just bought a 4K TV and he's actually thinking of getting a PS4 Pro because of that or whatnot. And I think he got, I forgot which brand it is at the current moment like that, but I know that what is it? There's a selection that's out there for people, but I think that number one, I think the biggest kind of telling for in the way that you could kind of get them, it could tell you everything you need to know about how, especially Sony is kind of approaching this and stuff, is when they came out and they asked their developers to release patches for their games, for like older games and stuff, to kind of support all that stuff, the HDR, the 4K stuff, amongst all the different PlayStation 4 platforms.
I got you.
Yeah. I definitely agree though that they should educate consumers a lot more on which 4K TVs to buy and stuff, because there's a lot of consumers who really don't know like what all this stuff is.
I mean, and the thing is that there's certain TVs of a certain size that obviously that is the better option. I know when I've heard people who have been reviewing some of these games, they did like tests on the 4K monitors. These guys are using like 55-inch and up.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it would be helpful because again, like I alluded to earlier, when you talk about the fact that you have the Slim on the market and you also have the Pro. Someone who is not into games, but they want to get a game system for their significant other, or maybe they want to invest in one. They need to know.
They're going to see the price. That's all they're going to see is the price. They're going to see $100 difference. That's it.
Yeah, they'll see the price, but then they're going to want to ask questions about, so what is the difference between this one? And if you say I need a 4K TV, what kind of TV? And then, obviously, I think if you talk about a retailer, someone at Best Buy, they probably will try to sell somebody the most expensive 4K TV that they need, and that may not even be a TV that they need. So I think they definitely need to educate people if you are considering getting the Xbox One S, a PlayStation 4 Pro, or a Scorpio. These are the type of TVs that you should consider getting at this particular size model. I mean, this is important information because, again, you can't just buy a regular 4K TV and it may not work because Microsoft has already said, it's a certain type of support that the TV needs to have. So I just think I think they need to educate people a little bit better.
You know what? I got a question. Like, are you finished or are you still?
Oh no, you can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Like, what made you think? Like, what made Sony think that this was the year to announce the PS4 Pro and release it? Like, they could have waited till next year when 4K TVs would have been a bit cheaper, components would have been a bit cheaper, and then of course Scorpio and PS4 Pro would be coming out together. But what made them drop it this year? Like, what
I
do you
think it's
it
a
was?
combination of stuff. I think it's old Sony mentality. That's what some people have said here and there. Like, it's a more brash kind of like pompous Sony mentality, that because they think that their base or the people that are in with their brand are so hardcore, they're just going to accept whatever it is that they're going to kind of throw out there. And I don't think they had the foresight for it. I think they're kind of just, they got a lot of eggs in a lot of baskets right now. They have VR stuff. They have this stuff with the 4K TVs. Again, they have to think about stuff way down the line, maybe possibly into the next generation and such. Maybe it just wasn't enough foresight and, clear thinking about the full picture in order to do something like that. I agree with you, though, Gary, that maybe if they waited till next year, but even then, they probably would have had other issues pop up and stuff, but it probably would have been better to wait a whole another year or so afterwards before announcing the Pro. Because then I think everybody wouldn't be so negative to it as they are now.
Because there's too much going on now. I mean, they got PSVR coming. They got the Slim.
$400 platform, man. It's $400 console, $400 piece of hardware on top of that, which is untested. At this, well, not really untested, but it's like, again, it's going to be at its beginning stages where they're not going to be the most optimal experiences like what we think like that when it first comes out. So there's a lot of stuff happening for them all over the place.
I can answer that question, Gary. Let's go ahead and let's just address the answer now, because they wanted to get out in front of the competition. They already said multiple times that they're not really worried about Microsoft, but obviously, because a lot of people who, as soon as they heard this, I've gotten messages from different people Let me give a shout out to Ed Mason because he sent me this message as soon as it said. He said, "Oh, I think it's over for Microsoft." I thought, well, I don't know about that. A lot of people think that just because this system is coming out, it's going to be over for the Scorpio. And the thing about it is, as was already said on this show, they've already said the Scorpio is going to be significantly more powerful. So I don't see how that's the case. But I just think that they wanted to try to give people a 4K option better. And I also want to address this as well. A lot of people said that, well, this is a definitive price point for $399, which is a good price point. They said that this is the 4K option that is best suited for the consumer right now. While there are some aspects of that could be considered true, we already know the games are not going to be in 4K. Some may be upscaled, yes, but the Xbox One S, it doesn't offer 4K support for gaming. Obviously, everything else is 4K, but this is a system that is also cheaper than the Pro as well. It has some adjustments here or there. It definitely has the Blu-ray player, which some people do care about. Others don't care about that, which I did find interesting how a lot of people said they don't care about that with the Pro. But yet, if Microsoft didn't have that drive, I'm pretty sure they would be all over Microsoft. They would be like, yeah, Microsoft, this console was trash. You know how people think because it's the fanboy mentality. But I just think at the end of the day, we'll see how it pans out. You asked a very good question about why they would release it so soon. Let me go back to what you always say, what you've been saying on this show since several episodes ago. These consoles released too early. The original PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One came out in 2013. We were still waiting for games to come out, and a lot of games have come out since then on both platforms. But I just think that I think that what Sony has done so far with some of these releases, Uncharted was good. As you said, Bloodborne was good. Some games, whatever. It's different. It depends on what you like, your preference. But they still have a lot more great games that are in development. They're not out yet, though, so I don't really see why I would invest in another $400 just to get those games when I could use my current PlayStation 4 to play the same games. And it doesn't matter if it's a 4K, because I don't have a 4K TV. I just don't think that any of that stuff matters. But for some, the hardcore gamers, as y'all both alluded to, it does matter. They'll definitely go out in droves and pick up this console immediately, day one. We know a lot of people who have already pre-ordered this console. More power to them, but I'm fine with where I'm at right now.
Shouts to Wesley. He actually sent me something. Like, he thinks that the Scorpio was announced at E3. Like, he thinks Microsoft basically did that in reaction to the PlayStation Neo, and that they hadn't finalized all the parts they wanted yet, and that they're still kind of deciding on the parts they want now based on what Sony's doing, and that he thinks they'll start to order the parts early 2017, and then around E3 maybe they'll release the full specs. So do you think that Microsoft is basically, what they're doing is reactionary to what Sony is doing? Like, do you think
that's an excellent point? Wesley doing his research. That's an excellent point. I don't see why. You see that Sony has already done their show, and if you think about it, both companies have been reactions. Look at when the Xbox One was announced. The price point is going to be $499. Sony had, I don't know if Sony already had it in their head that they were going to make that console cheaper, but they looked at what Microsoft did and said, okay, $399. So I'm pretty sure all of this is based off of reactions. When they see what one does, okay, let's do the other. You want another example? Look at PlayStation Plus and the fact that Microsoft has had games with gold, but it wasn't until not too long ago when they decided to offer more games, and in particularly the 360 compatible games. So they offer more value for their service before, when they didn't really have that much value. I mean, it had the games, but they offer a lot more of them now than they did before. The difference, of course, you get to keep these games, whereas the PlayStation Plus, if you don't keep your subscription, you're going to lose access to the games. But I think everything is based off of reaction, and I would not be surprised if that is accurate for Microsoft with the Scorpio. So,
Yeah, interesting theory. It looks like Damien doesn't agree though. He said that's nuts. MS knows what they want. These things take time to put together.
Listen, it does take time to put together, but you know, I mean, this is a system that is not coming out until holiday 2017. That is the asterisk that you could put next to when it gets
We'll
announced.
probably see it at E3 though. I would
Oh
bank
no,
on that. We'll see it at E3.
we have to see it at E3. But what I'm saying is that they have a whole year to make any change they want to. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of stuff that they probably were intending on revealing that they didn't reveal yet that is going to change about that system. I mean, we don't know yet.
Let's hope they have a better presentation than what PlayStation did on this last meeting for the Pro.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they will have a better presentation. Obviously, after they saw what they hear the feedback, they see everything. One thing I did want to mention real quick, as far as Phil Spencer, I know he has released a couple of tweets that were very interesting. There's a lot of fans that they kept asking him about certain stuff, and I know that there were some people on the Microsoft team that were throwing shots at Sony because they don't have the Blu-ray support and all this other stuff, and then these guys immediately came after Phil, and they asked him, why is he backtracking on what he said? It alluded to, first and foremost, he is not a fan of he's not a fan of the fanboy stuff. He's already alluded to that, and he said that that people they really have to focus on their products right now. So I thought it was interesting, people coming after him still from what other people are saying on the team. Obviously, the team doesn't all have the unified thinking. There are some that probably don't handle themselves quite as professionally as others. But I thought that was interesting how people are coming after him because some people on Microsoft taking shots at the stuff that Sony, if it doesn't support this, the Pro has this is not a feature, that type of stuff. It's kind of ridiculous.
I have to say I really enjoyed those tweets. That was well played by Microsoft. Those tweets that came out right.
Those were top tier PR right there.
Yeah, well,
it was almost as good as the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter. Like, it's close.
Yeah, well, hey, we'll see what happens. So, let me go ahead and ask this question. So let's do a tally one more time. So, are any of you guys getting yourself a PlayStation 4 Pro?
No, I'm not.
Oh, how about you, Gary? What if they announce a special? Special added features for 4K or Final Fantasy 15. Will that make you get a PS Pro?
If they do that, then I will. But if not, then hell no, I'm not going.
All right, well, and as I've already said, I don't have any plans. I consider getting both the Pro and the S, but then I thought to myself, it doesn't make sense. Systems I have work fine, and I'd rather spend that money on games rather than buying a new system, to be quite honest, because there's a lot of games coming out that I want to play. But, for those that did make a purchase, hey, more power to you. I hope you enjoy your purchase. I'm not bashing in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see a need for it at the moment. But, we'll see what happens in the future. And as for Scorpio, well, yeah, we'll hear more about it when Microsoft has more to say about it, I'm assuming. Yeah, E3 will definitely know more details, but we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to yet say anything else about the Scorpio beyond just what I think about them being confident in it. So we'll see what happens. But any final thoughts or topics you guys wanted to address? I don't know if you wanted to say something about Nintendo making an appearance at the Apple conference, Gary, because I know maybe you had something to say about that.
Oh yeah. First of all, I just want to say everyone should have an iPhone because it is the phone to have.
Yeah.
So.
I want an iPhone, honestly.
Yeah, but yeah, like Miyamoto coming out at the Apple conference, that was like insane. Like, because I was gonna watch it anyway, just because I'm really into Apple and iPhone and stuff, and I like watching their conferences. I find it really entertaining, even if I don't end up buying any of the products. I just always enjoy watching their conferences and trolling on Twitter and stuff like that. But seeing Miyamoto show up and announce that Mario game, like, that was monumental.
That's a big deal.
Like that, yeah, that was something I never thought I'd see. So that was a megaton moment right there. What do
That's
you
a
think
very
about it,
big
JJ?
That's a very big deal for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's the first Mario game on an, or well, not really necessarily the first Mario game on a separate platform outside of Nintendo, but it's the first one that's happened in quite a long time, which is going to be, Nintendo getting behind it, which is a very, very big deal in of itself. But also, that's the first in a couple other mobile games that are coming. Because remember, next year in 2017, we have Fire Emblem mobile. Fire Emblem on mobile devices, and also Animal Crossing on mobile devices, which, by the way, all those games, including Super Mario Run, are not just going to be on iOS, they're also going to be on Android. They're just coming to iOS first. They'll be on Android a little bit later afterwards. So that can lead to a number of different things. A lot of people were really happy about it. A lot of people were pleased to see Nintendo making this type of move because they felt it's good for the company. It's going to help them make more money. And funny enough, it's not a free-to-play game, or at least, to a full extent. Like, I know there's going to be a trial period where you could play it up to a certain point for free, but, like, it's still a game that's a Nintendo game that you pay one flat rate and then you get all this stuff with it. Same thing that's possibly going to be also with the Fire Emblem and the Animal Crossing games, which is a good move for them because people will pay it just on the simple fact that it's Mario or the simple fact that it's Nintendo games. So, who knows? What I was interested in and kind of curious about was that what does this mean also for the NX? Because when I was watching it during the Apple conference, I was saying to myself, does that mean maybe Apple has some sort of like input or influence or sort of like suggestions for what's going on with the NX? How are these going to kind of connect? Because remember, apparently Nintendo's supposed to be making one online infrastructure or one online platform amongst all their devices, including their mobile stuff. So how is that going to play into what's going on with the NX? And I really think that very soon we're going to get a special Nintendo Direct which finally kind of like tells us about what NX is as a platform as well as how does it relate to everything else that's going on. Since then, they've been radio silent on it, but I'm expecting some big things, maybe after TGS. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, now that they're in cahoots with Apple a little bit, maybe they're trading secrets and helping each other a little bit. So, maybe Apple might be lending them a hand on that regard in terms of the hardware and stuff, but who knows? It's hard to tell at this point. But it is great to see that, Nintendo and Apple have some type of relationship because that's something I never thought, I was going to see. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment, and I do agree it is interesting to see that they have a relationship. Good for both. And I'm going to say something that may be considered controversial, so I'm going to give you a warning now. I'll just say this. I've been a Nintendo fan since I was a kid, but as of late and as of what they've done the last couple generations, I haven't been with them because I've matured a little bit more as a gamer. I don't like to really play the kiddie games too much. But I think that Microsoft, I'm going to say Apple and Nintendo, glad to see them work together because in my opinion, they both need each other. I know Nintendo, they haven't necessarily done well with the Wii U, as well as they would have hoped to have done. So the NX needs to be a big deal. And as for Apple, I mean, I saw that Apple presentation. I'm going to tell you right now, I was not impressed with the presentation. The iPhone is, it has a couple of changes every time they release these phones, but certain stuff to me, and I'm going to give a special shout out to Carl Daniel, because we spoke about this yesterday. You introduced the fact that this lightning cord is now the main central cord for the headphones and all this other stuff. That's fine, but, really should have eased people into that, because now you're getting rid of the other jack that people had. The headphone jack is going to be gone now. And all Apple always does is every time they announce a new design, it gets rid of where a jack used to be or so on and so forth. That means that they could charge you now for a new cord that you're going to need to buy. And I think that that's ridiculous. You could have eased people into that over time, maybe had an option where people still have that jack on one phone design and then you don't have the jack on another phone. But they said, to hell with that. Everybody is going to buy this new cord because we need money. So I'm not a fan of how they are handling things, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely agree with you there. I do think they could have put the jack in, like they just took it out to be assholes. Like, because the reason they took it out is because they want to force the lightning connection on people. They want people to realize, because to be honest, it really is beneficial. Like the things they can do with it now are really impressive. Like you can have more control over your audio, your sound connection and everything like that. And that's a great thing. But at the same time, you know, you should have eased people into this and let them see, you know, let them decide if they still want to use their old headphones. Because like a lot of these headphones that people buy and stuff, like a lot of them are expensive, like the SMS audio, the Beats, all that stuff. So
They get
let
pretty
them,
pricey.
exactly, yeah. So let them still be able to use them. And, you know, to a degree they can because it comes with the adapter, but it's just that you can't charge your phone at the same time that you're using the headphones anymore. So,
Yeah.
and that's going to annoy a lot of people. But, you know, at the same time, they should have just kept the jack in this one just so they don't upset people and so that they can ease people into understanding what the lightning connection can do to them. And they should have, to be honest, they could have, like, if anything, they could have added two lightning ports to the phone maybe, just so, you know, you could at least charge your phone or something at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's numerous things they could have did to ease people into the experience without upsetting people, because a lot of people are upset now because it's like, yeah.
And see, you know, you're right. And just to connect this back to gaming, I think this is the same approach that Microsoft, Sony, all these other companies need to take as far as easing people into whatever a new decision is that you're about to make. If it's an important decision, you want to make sure that the messaging is very clear. We know Microsoft, they did not deliver messaging good on the Xbox One when it first launched. So you have to ease people into these discussions. One last thing I will say about that particular conference also, I did not like the fact that at the Apple conference how they started to use all these technical terms about, yeah, we added a new camera, and this is all the stuff it does, the scientifical mass of the image at different angles, stuff like that. Again, the average consumer, I don't think they care about any of that other stuff. They don't know. They definitely don't know what the people are talking about. So I think just to put it back on gaming, you know, when Sony had their conference and they're talking about 4K and all this other stuff, again, as I said already, you couldn't really see what the 4K stuff looked like if you had a 4K monitor, yeah, but it's 1080p, you're not going to see that. So I think that, you know, you need to think about, if you're going to talk about some technical terms, try to explain it in a way in which people understand. If you can't do it, then I probably would say ignore that and just talk about the benefits. Don't worry about all this other stuff. But I think, again, to connect both conferences, I think that both sides can learn a lot from how each other presented. Just try to be aware that the average consumer, I'm not saying every consumer is ignorant to what the products are, but they definitely will not understand everything that you're saying in terms of the technical aspects of the device that they're trying to sell. So they have to be a lot more transparent and clear in the messaging. So hopefully that is something that we'll see that they'll do moving forward.
Oh, but wait, hold on. Aren't you gonna tell the people that you're buying the Apple Watch so that you can play Pokemon Go?
Oh, the Apple! Oh, hell no, that won't
So
happen.
you can play Pokemon Go underwater, correction.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, Pokemon Go. I'm glad Apple's getting in on that. As I said, you know, and I'm gonna just be quite, you know, we try to keep it real on this show. I don't think Apple has been innovative since Steve Jobs passed. I said on Twitter after the conference, it's clear that they missed Steve Jobs. I'm pretty sure there were other products they have that they were going to announce. I don't know if those products are still going to get announced, but I don't think. I personally think that they don't have that fire in innovation. We're seeing another new phone every year. And what is it? A better camera, and that's it. I don't really see any other features outside of the fact that they make improvements to the iOS software. But with Pokemon Go, it's great. So I'm glad that Apple is finally embracing these gaming options, having more gaming stuff on mobile devices, because that's a big deal. Pokemon Go, yeah, a lot of people will pick that up. Will I be one of those people? You already know the answer to that question. That's a no. Definitely not. But
yeah, I'm gonna be real though. Like, I'm an Apple head, but that Pokemon Go on Apple Watch looked trash though. Like, it looked garbage, to be honest.
Hey, so some people, you know, those are like the, you know, every brand has its fan base. You know, Apple fans, they will be out there at midnight waiting in lines to buy that watch, buy these iPhones. And Sony and Microsoft fans, they will be pre-ordering consoles, waiting to pick up the consoles. I mean, it is what it is. Not a bad thing. I'm not telling people how to spend their money. I'm just saying I wasn't impressed with that particular conference because I don't really see any innovation. Yeah, we could talk about the AirPods, the AirPods that they announced. that will get lost as soon as somebody decides to use them for the first time, and then they put them down. Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, like look, I always like with earphones and stuff, like the ones that hang out your ears. I always have problems with those because my ears are big and they always fall out of my ear. So like I would lose those day one, guaranteed. So
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's. But see, I would like to think that they think about these things when they create them. But I after seeing that, I don't think they did because I know people are gonna be losing that device. And $150? Oh hell no. No. So but again, I don't want to venture too much off topic. I just definitely wanted to address the Nintendo thing because I know some people may ask, why didn't you guys talk about that? I think it's good for Nintendo, good for Apple, hopefully, but I want to hear more about the NX. We need to hear more about that, and we need to see what their plans are with that system because that's coming out next year. So.
yeah, and just quickly, I'm really looking forward to the Nintendo NX announcement, and I can't wait till we do a react on that because we will be doing a react on that whenever it happens.
Most
Can't
definitely.
wait for that. But also I wanted to say that Nintendo's stock went up, rightfully so this time because of Apple. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Because when the Pokemon Go thing happened, like that was because people didn't know that Nintendo didn't make the game. Like they thought it was a Nintendo game.
They
So
didn't
that's
know it
why
was
their stock
Niantic.
Yeah. But this time around, it actually went up for the right reason. So shouts to them. Shouts to Nintendo.
That's good. Shout outs to Nintendo and Apple. About time. We'll see where this partnership goes. Hopefully to good places. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for this week's show. I think we covered a lot of different topics. I do apologize if some of the PlayStation 4 stuff Pro was a bit of a rant or for me, but I wasn't on the react, so I had some stuff I had to say about that. But did you guys have any final shout outs you want to give before we close the show? How about you go first, Gary?
Yeah, just shouts to everyone who was in the live chat. Wesley was in there, Charles, Damien, a couple other people in there. So shouts to all you guys that listened live and sent your messages in the chat. We appreciate it. And shouts to everyone who's gonna listen on the site, after it goes up and everything. And shouts to all our Patreon supporters as usual. Marcus Collins actually won our giveaway, so he's gonna win Final Fantasy when that drops. And that's just an example of why it's always beneficial to support us on Patreon, because you do get more tickets into our giveaways, so you're more likely to win, and that's just the reality of it. But there still is a chance that you can win even if you don't support us on Patreon. So there's still a chance for you guys to win something eventually. But shouts to everyone who supports us, period. We really appreciate it, guys, and it keeps us going. So thank you.
Absolutely. How about you, Mr. Lugo? Any final shout outs?
Same sentiments as Gary has. Shout out to everybody that was in the chat. Shout out to everybody who's watching this now, who's checking out the stuff that we have on the site, leaving comments for us, sending us feedback, sending us, your reactions to the stuff that we talk about on all the podcasts, on all the editorials and the op-eds and stuff that we do, our reviews. Again, review for Recore is going up tomorrow. It'll be up in the morning around like 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, around 9 a.m., around there and such. We'll have our first official review of it by then, and then we'll probably be talking about it on the next co-op episode, when it goes up. And also shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your input, your kind of like feedback to us on a whole bunch of stuff. Again, being a patron not only gets you the tickets and stuff towards our contest, but also the exclusive content, the podcast that we do on there, True Gamer Stories, and all the other stuff that we have on there that is part of the Patreon exclusive content. We hope that you guys are enjoying it. We'll have more down the line. We'll have a bunch of other cool stuff as we get into much more of the bigger releases. We've been talking about some cool stuff that we want to do eventually at some point as some of the crazier, more bigger, high exposure games come out. So be on the lookout for that, and keep just supporting our content. Keep showing us some love and showing us the support whenever you guys can. Thank you a ton.
Absolutely, and I'm going to also echo the words of both of my colleagues on here. We definitely like to thank you guys for the continued support, whether it's on Patreon or just supporting the site. We do appreciate it. Definitely is motivational for us. We do have another giveaway we're going to be talking about soon, so I would like to hope that everybody who is listening to this podcast does plan on visiting the site this week, because I'll announce that relatively soon. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of games coming out, so stay tuned for that because we're going to have a lot to talk about next week. I know for a fact. There's a lot of games coming out this week by itself. So stay tuned for that. I also wanted to take the time to just say a quick little message. I did talk with Wesley yesterday. I want to, say this. I know when the PlayStation 4 Pro was announced, there was a lot of hatred, and there was some positive, but it was equal sides. Xbox fanboys were pissed. They were laughing at Sony, and Sony also had some things to say, whether it was positive or negative. I just like to say this. Whether you own an Xbox One, you enjoy Xbox, or whether you own a PlayStation 4 or you enjoy PlayStation, just enjoy your platform. Don't worry about heavily criticizing the other, because this is a cycle that continues over and over again with people looking at what one other console does, criticize it, ha ha ha, and then when something happens to their console, it's like it's the same thing. I think people need to just stop being so much of fanboys and just enjoy the games themselves, because you don't have time. Life is too short to sit up here, just sitting back here heavily supporting a company and then bashing another company. That requires energy to bash the other company. I would much rather put that energy towards enjoying the games that I'm playing on whichever preferred platform that I have. If you're somebody like me and you have all platforms, well, then you really don't need to worry about any fanboy stuff. But just wanted to say that, people who are enjoying their games on their platforms, enjoy your games. If you don't like what another platform does, okay, fine. Don't make a big deal out of it, though. Play your games and mind your business. Simple as that. Something that everybody should try, in my opinion.
Yeah, don't be mean-spirited. That's the best thing. Don't be mean-spirited. Don't be like that. Don't be a jerk.
Okay, yeah. Gary got something to say. Okay, Gary, go ahead.
I wanted to echo everything you just said, because I don't think people realize that they can like something without hating something else. Like, you can just enjoy something and not have something bad to say about something else, or, people who support something else or prefer something else. Like, you can just enjoy what you enjoy, and I think more people should do that. But with that being said, I do get entertained by people going in on each other.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's very funny to read on Twitter and stuff. But yeah, besides that, I just wanted to make sure that I read out the names of our Patreon supporters, just because, before I didn't have the names in front of me and I didn't want to butcher any names. So I'm gonna do that now real quick. So shouts to M. Collins, of course, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Stephen Ferron, and Mauricio Aguilar, I think his name is. So yeah, shouts to you guys. Those are our Patreon supporters.
Awesome.
They made this possible, so thank you.
Yes,
guys.
Thank you very much. And as I say, yes, that concludes our episode for this week. So stay tuned. Next week we'll have a lot more to talk about. Hope you guys have a great week ahead. We'll talk to you soon.